Hello, how's it going, everyone? Welcome back. It's been a hot minute since I've done one of these, but we're going to be doing an Overwatch tier list for Season 2. As always, it's just my personal opinion. I've been definitely getting a bit more back into Overwatch, so let's just go on ahead and get right to the chase. I'm not going to have a D tier, honestly, because there's only like a very select few heroes I would even really think of putting in a D tier, so I'm just making a worst in slot. So it basically just means that they're the weakest in that role. But I think that there's a lot that's playable and there's a lot that's actually really good. So, starting off, D.Va. I think D.Va's S tier. She's probably the best tank on the patch. Even with the nerf to like her booster cooldown, making it a little longer, she's still just so good. She has great burst, she can peel really well. This is for 5v5 also, just to put out there too. I might do a 6v6 tier list maybe down the line, but 5v5 I'm a little more comfortable with talking about. But yeah, D.Va just gets you a ton of value, good burst, great mobility. DM is just a massive ability as well, it just does so much. And I think that the higher in rank, especially that you climb, when people get really good at playing D.Va, she just excels even more. Domina, I think is actually B tier. I think that she's actually pretty good. Like, she's in a good balanced state. Obviously, when she first came out in Season 1, she was, like, very much just played a lot, perma ban, S tier, bit overtuned. But I think she's balanced now. I think she's in a good spot. I think that she has her spots where she can play really well. But I also think that she has, her weaknesses. Like, one in particular that's really emerged is Mauga. Mauga's actually really good into Domina because you just overrun her and get past her barrier and blow her up. But Domina, just kind of fills the same niche that like Sigma can, except Sigma's much better into Mauga than Domina is. So I think Domina's still really good, but I think that people have gotten accustomed to playing against her. Doom, I think is C tier. I actually don't think Doom's the worst tank. I think he's actually, in comparison to like the C tier tanks, I think he's probably one of the better ones. I think that situationally you can play him. The only problem is that obviously he can still fall over, very vulnerable to CC, can, have a lot that counters him. But good Doom players will still get value and will still be able to dominate games if they have the mechanical skill. You just have to be really, really good at Doom, and ideally you want to get follow-up. Not that you need it to be lethal, but it's more to get you out in one piece. But yeah, I think Doom is like okay. I don't think he's great, but I don't think he's like terrible. Hazard, crazily enough, I actually think Hazard is probably one of the better tanks on the patch this season. Do I think that's Hazard's actually like broken? No, but I do think that he's really good, and it's the initiator passive. As you know, Hazard's my main. I have like too many hours on this character. He's so fun for me. But what made Hazard struggle so much in previous seasons was the weakened sustain because of all the nerfs to his block. But by giving him Initiator, he can just climb the wall, do a little leap, and heal himself. And so it's just really good for Hazard. I think I average like 2k, sometimes even 3k healing just off the passive for Hazard. So it's really good, and he still has great offense, so I think Hazard's just really, really solid. Like, just a ranked demon. If you can get good at your combos, you can just roll. He does have a few matchups that are a bit weak for him. Funny enough, Mauga. Also Arisa. Can be tough. D.Va is probably one of the worst, just because she can deny him so much value, but yeah, I think Hazard's really good this season. Junker Queen, unfortunately Junker Queen is actually kind of rough when I really think about it. I think that she can do good in the right situations with a good rush comp with like a Lucio, a Reaper, not really Vendetta. Vendetta kind of sucks now, but, Queen just, honestly, I've seen it floated around, and I have to agree, she needs the Bruiser passive. She's currently Stalwart, and I just don't think it fits her role. Because Queen is in the open, doesn't have shields, doesn't have anything, so Bruiser would make sense. Reduce the crit damage on headshots and make her a little faster when she's low HP. because if you don't have shout, you just don't really do much. I think the queen can pop off if you get in close. I think if you're good with your cooldowns, you can make it work, but it's just tough. And with so many heroes being able to just poke queen out infinitely from a distance, it can be really hard for her to actually get good consistent value. Alright, moving on to Mauga. Mauga honestly is like A+. He's borderline S tier. The only thing to me that really keeps him in check is D.Va. If D.Va wasn't as good as she is, I think Mauga would be a meta-relevant tank. Because Mauga, really good into Hazard, really good into Domina, great into Ram, better into Orisa, great into Hog. Sigma's a bit of a tough matchup too, but you can make it work if you play it right. So yeah, I think that Mauga just excels currently. Like he just blows people up. He just has so much burst. The only thing though is obviously this is a ranked tier list. This isn't really like pro play. In pro play, he's like S tier because of the coordination with Cardiac. But in ranked, you know, you can still get shut down by Ana, shut down by Zen. So I think Mauga is really strong. I think he's pretty underrated in my opinion, or maybe not underrated. He's like a sleeper demon pick. Like he's really good. Orisa, I think Orisa's pretty good too. I'm gonna give her like a higher B. I think that she does really well into her matchups like Rein, Ram, Hog. But she can have some ones that she struggles. Not great into Zarya. Mauga's better against her. Not really great against Dive because she doesn't have the ability to really peel that well. So I think where Orisa shines just kind of being that bully in the front line that doesn't die. But take that away, she's definitely like dealable. I think that Orisa like honestly is in one of her healthiest states. You know, since what feels like a while. Like Overwatch 2 Orisa was just such a pain in the butt, but I think they actually have her in a decent place. So yeah, I think she's B tier. She's pretty good. Ram, I actually underrated a lot with the changes he got this season. I think Ram is probably A tier. He just has much more consistent value with his Vortex. That's been a big buff to him. They did shuffle perks around. Honestly, I like Big Barrier. Like, Big Barrier just really helps a lot. It feels like you have less downtime because the shield generally is, like, very rarely broken because it has so much HP. And then they made the burst on his left click better when you get the major perk. It bursts faster. So Ram in late game is insane. I think that Ram is just kind of been power crept back up to good standings, to great standings. The only thing though is that he does have a few weaknesses. Like if you're playing into Mauga, playing into a really good Orisa, you're probably just gonna block most of the time. But Ram is really good. He's really good at bullying and pummeling people, and because he has the Vortex as a base kit feature where it'll ground and explode on you, he's actually really good at chasing people down and doing a lot of damage. So I think he's pretty strong. Alright, unfortunately Rein, in my opinion, I think is the worst in slot this season. I think that Rein is just really rough to play. It's not impossible. I definitely think you can play him if you're good enough. The issue for me with Rein is just that he gets bullied really hard. Bullied by Orisa, Mauga, Ram beats him really hard. Whenever Ram is really good, like generally Rein is not as good because Ram bullies Rein just up front. I think you can play Rein. I don't actually think he's like a D tier tank. He's probably like a C tier, but I do think he's the weakest this season, so I'm going to put him in worst in slot. I think for Rein, you have to be cracked out of your mind to get the same value that you can get much easier on many other tanks. So I want to put him there. Hog. Okay, so Hog is still good. He did get nerfed pretty decently, but I still have this character. This mother trucker is still picked quite a bit in ranked. He still does a lot of damage. I'm going to put him at high B. But I will take him out of A because of how good Mauga is. Unironically, Hog being as strong as he did brought Mauga up a bit because Mauga's a really good pick into Hog. You just blow him up. And with Hog no longer having Invigorate, Mauga was able to chase him again pretty easily. So I think that Hog like can still play really well because of the potency of his one shot is still strong. They didn't nerf his damage. They just made his uptime in the neutral noticeably weaker. So I'll give him a high B for the moment. Sigma, I think, is a really high A tier. I think he's very strong. He's just playable in many comps, playable on many maps. Like, he's just a very safe, reliable, strong pick. Can't go wrong picking Sigma. The only time Sigma really isn't good if it's like a hard dive meta, which it isn't. So I think Sigma's pretty strong. Didn't get a really huge nerf with the patch to kick off the season. So I think he's like A tier, like pretty high. Winston, probably lower end of A. I do think Winton is quite solid. He's just really good at diving backline, good at taking a lot of aggro, and Winston poke is still underrated. I think that also being able to break deployables quicker on the base kit is a very nice touch. It makes him a lot better into Torb and Sim, and also breaking some shields like Sigma's barrier. The only thing with Winston is he just doesn't have great lethality. Like, he doesn't do a lot of damage. He usually needs to have follow-up from like a Genji or a Tracer or an Onron, something like that. But in those comps where you get the flow going with dive, he's one of the best. So, yeah, I think he's A tier. I think he's pretty strong. Wrecking Ball, probably low B tier. I do think Wrecking Ball is decent, but I just don't really see him as much anymore. I think he's a bit outclassed in the dive category. I think him being able to live infinitely isn't generating as much value as prior seasons. But I also think that the newer heroes are just really good into ball. Like I talk about Mizuki, Onron marks him really well. Cat just flies away from him. Domina can push him away. And Sierra does quite a lot of burst damage. We'll get to Sierra eventually. And I think the ball just, honestly, one of his biggest weaknesses is that the newer heroes are just all good into him. And even Emre is just kind of busted. So, yeah, ball just has kind of been power crept down a little bit without being really nerfed too hard. But he's still good in his spots, so you get that ball player that doesn't die, he's unkillable, you know how it is. And then finally, Zarya, I'm going to put in the A tier as well. I do think that Zarya is still a fairly strong tank in ranked, because you can just run it down. Excuse me. Like, Zarya is a win harder hero. Like, if you are the better player, you just dominate. You just steamroll, because you just double bubble, get high charge, and mow the other team down. I do think that the damage nerf is catching up a bit to Zarya. That being said, she still has really good perks, and she, still can really hurt when she gets that charge, so I'm not going to put her too low. Also, Diva, innately being really good, kind of makes Zarya really good, because she's just a good ranked counter into Diva. You just beam through that DM. And I feel pretty good about the tanks, so I'm going to leave this here. Let's go on ahead to the DPS, starting off with Onron. I think Onron is a B tier. I think she's pretty good. I was a little tempted to give her an A, but I think that would be a bit of an overreaction to the buffs. Onron is getting better and better with the buffs that they give her. They give her a lot of buffs, but I do still think that she's not quite strong. And the big reason for that is just, a couple things. She's not really able to dual poke heroes as well as others. And I mean, obviously, Onron's kind of more of a dive-ish like hero, so it makes sense. But in a lot of fights where you're fighting in the neutral with her, spam, it's difficult. It's just difficult for her to really get the flow going as easier as other heroes with like your combos on DPS. I do think that Onron, though, when you do get someone light on fire, you do a lot of damage with your right click. Like, you melt. Like, she does a lot of damage. I also think that her ultimate, the res, I think the self-res might be the big, I think that the normal ult is okay. The self-res, is probably the big thing, just having that extra life. But you are very vulnerable. Like, if you play into a Rhine or a Hog, you just instantly die if they know how to camp your res. So I think On-Run's still really fun. I think she has really good escape tools and mobility, but I just think that she's just not quite there. But I do think if they keep buffing her raw numbers, she naturally will get pretty broken, so we'll keep an eye on her. Moving on to Ashe, I think Ashe is A tier, just really strong hit scan. Not a huge nerf with the perk nerf to the double coach gunshot. Um, a lot of Ashes I play into usually get the dynamite perk build, so you just get it to where it explodes manually and larger. So yeah, I think Ashe is pretty damn good. Bob is still really good. She has very effective range, so she's really gonna thrive on maps where you would also play like Widow or Sojourn. Bastion. I'm gonna put Bastion a bit lower. I'm gonna put him on the lower end of B tier. I think he got hit pretty hard with nerfs. He gets his perks slower, but the big one to me is nerfing the grenade perk. Because what you could do is spam grenade, go turret form, spam grenade, exit, throw another grenade. And it just gave you a ton of DPS, especially in duels. Like, that was one of the weakest spots of Bastion, is he's really easy to duel, especially up close, because all you have to do is force out shift. But that perk made him a really good duelist, but they nerfed it. It no longer automatically refunds the cooldown, it just reduces it by a few seconds. I think it's like 4 seconds. So I think that's actually a pretty big nerf to Bastion. I think he'll still be good at just shredding and blowing up utilities and shields, but I don't think he's going to be nearly as good as he was last season. Cass, high B tier, still pretty good. I honestly might have been a little harsh on him. I was thinking he was going to be like a C tier because he just isn't as effective, but I think that's probably just more of a pilot, not the plane kind of situation. I think that Cass still can be a really effective DPS, just with his insanely high damage up close and very high dueling capabilities. Obviously, he's very weak in the ranged fights. He, loses very hard to Widow, and will lose to Soj and Ashe and Emre. I think Emre also is like really shoved Cass aside. Emre's just insane, so I think Cass is still good, but definitely on the lower end these days in a way. But B tier is still pretty good though, so it's nothing to scoff at. Echo, I think Echo's A tier. I think she's better than Ashe actually. I think Echo's actually really, really strong. There's just a few things that keep her in check, like Diva being good, Emre being good, Sojourn being really good. And, with Hitscan still being a very solid option, it's not quite a flyer meta, but Echo is very strong. Being able to copy allies is actually really huge, because you have much more creative control over how you want to use your ultimate. And furthermore, they buffed the range of her beam minor perk, so that's stronger. Echo's just really good at dealing out the damage and the spam, and also dueling up close, but also just being an assassin. I mean, I play against some crazy Echo players that just, you can't hear them coming, they just float behind you, tap you with sticky nades, and you're dead. So, yeah, Echo's pretty strong. Emre is going to be the first S tier DPS, not much to say. Emre is just a staple. The buffs just over time made him really, really strong. He has range, he has damage, he has good finishing capabilities with his grenade. His ult is really good, his sustain is really good. Even with them nerfing the major perk to his pistol, his siphon blaster, it's still good sustain. It's just not stupid, crazy, insane like sustain. Because there was a clip a friend sent me where he popped the blaster. Or sorry, it was a clip of their friend. They popped the blaster and literally self-healed in a 1v1 against a ball. And lived. And ended up killing them. It's crazy. So yeah, Emre, just a beast. Not much to say there. Freya, on the other hand, Freya has seen much better days. I think Freya is very, very mid. The issue with Freya is just doesn't have the lethality. They changed her breakpoint, so she's just weaker. and she loses a lot to like Emre, Cass, Ash. Um, it's treated kind of like a flyer. Like good hit scan players will be able to pop Freya like pretty consistently, but I think that just she's just weak. Like that's just as much to say she's just kind of weak. Like if you're really good with your aim, you can make her work, but there's just far better options. That's really all there is to it. Genji, B tier. I think he's still pretty decent, like fairly good. I think he's like neck and neck with Onron. Just a good dive DPS, and not much else to really say there. Genji will do Genji things. Hanzo, high C tier. Excuse me. While I do think that Hanzo can be good, it's pretty situational, I feel. You just basically he's just Mr. One Shot. Like that's the identity of his kit. Can you hit the one shot? And if you can, you're gonna do pretty good. If you can't, then you're just gonna struggle. I think also that like some things have kind of toned down, like the potency of his ult, the Frost Arrow perk, the Sonic Arrow disabling packs perk. The one thing I will say that he's still pretty good for is like tank busting a bit with Storm Arrows, but with Reaper being so good this season, just better just play Reaper than pick Hanzo for one ability when Reaper's entire kit can tank bust really hard. Pharah can tank bust really well, which we'll get to both of them very shortly. So yeah, I think Hanzo is just kind of situational. It's just a bit map dependent and player dependent. Can you hit the one shot? Junkrat. I think Junkrat's actually not terrible this season, but I'm still not that sold on him. I'm gonna give him a C tier. I think that Junkrat, like, getting the perk where you fire faster much earlier is nice, and they did also buff the perk with his concussion mines where you don't need a final blow, just need an Elin, so that's kind of cool. But the issue for me with Junkrat, unfortunately, is just kind of the nature of his kit. He doesn't do well when flyers are good, and flyers are good, and also hit scan, ranged hit scan particularly, is really good at a Junkrat. So, if you're cracked out of your mind, if you're like Vulture, then go for it. Junkrat's gonna make plays, but you basically have to be like a crazy good one-trick pony to play him consistently, in my opinion. Mei... I think May's probably B tier. Like, I think she's, like, decent. She has good utility and good survivability, but that's kind of like the ceiling with Mei. Just hard to kill, hard to get past with the wall and whatnot. The ult is still decent, but it's a team ult, and if you're playing in ranked, getting the whole team to work with you on your ult is not always gonna happen. I unfortunately see a lot of Mei's ult like 1v5, 1v4, so even if they freeze like over half the team, they just don't have the capacity to make the most of it. They don't got the follow up. But yeah, I think that Mei's like pretty good, just not crazy this season. Pharah is like A plus. She's borderline S tier. There's two things that keep her in check. One is good hit scans like Soj and Emre, and the other is Diva. If one or both fall, Pharah will be S tier. She will be S tier because she has a one shot now. She has a 275 HP one shot combo, and it's ridiculous. You get the concussion minor perk and the salvo major perk, you literally one shot. It's crazy. So, if you don't know, Pharah meta is one of my least enjoyed metas. We're not there currently, but keep your eyes on Pharah. Pharah goes really insane right now. She's really, really good. The other thing that kind of limits her are maps. You're not going to play her on every map, so that's another thing. Same with Echo. Reaper, also going up in high A as well. He's another hero that could potentially see himself in the S tier category. Reaper just hurts. He just does insane damage, but the biggest change for Reaper is dire triggers. So if you don't know what dire triggers, it was basically a perk where his right click, he would have a right click ability where he would fire both shotguns and it would have a decent range, but it would hurt really hard up close. And now it's base kit, but he also has a major perk where if he reloads or uses an ability, it automatically refreshes. So Reaper just has crazy outright burst damage with dire triggers, and now he's better from a range and up close. Obviously, it's not a sniper, so you still don't want to play Sniper Reaper, but yeah, Reaper is busted. Reaper just hurts, and he's played all the time. He's literally in like almost every game I play, I swear. Sierra. So Sierra's the newest hero. She's gonna go in low A. I think she's actually fairly strong. Sierra on immediate release was actually kind of weak because it's just things like, limitations with her utility, but they outright buffed her damage by 30%. So her damage just does a lot. She does so much more damage, and that alone I think makes her A tier. And if they do quality life buffs to her utility, she could potentially be an S tier hero. The things that I think limit her are that the right click tracker shot is pretty easy to dodge just by using cover, to be honest. And also the drone that lets you grapple and, kind of fly has a pretty long cooldown even if you recall it. So if they were to change something with those two things, that alone could make her insane. I think her grenade is solid, and I think her ult does a ton of damage. Like, her ult literally blows up tanks. Now, people will get better at dodging the ult just naturally with more time. But yeah, I think Sierra is actually a pretty effective duelist. But particularly, she just pumps out so much damage. So, Sierra doesn't really fly too high the higher in rank you climb, but I think in due time, she will only get better. Soj, not much to say. Sojourn's just an all-star. Just rail hurts, great mobility, massive ultimate, good perks. Not much to really say. Soj just Sojourn, just one of the best. Soldier, I think Soldier's actually a lot better this season. I think he's okay. I think he's like high C. Being able to reload while you sprint is nice. And I do think that his perks are fairly solid, but unfortunately it's the same old story I always say with Soldier. He's just a bit outclassed by Sojourn and Emre, but I think he's more than playable. I think he's actually pretty playable this season, so I can give him that. Sombra, in my opinion, the worst DPS on the patch, and it's not even really that close. You could throw Junkrat, you could throw Torb, you could throw Vendetta, but personally for me, it's Sombra. Sombra, and she got nerfed. That's the funniest part, is she got nerfed this patch, where she moves slower now when you reveal her out of Invis than she did before. I think it was like a 50% speed nerf. They reduced it by 50%. It's crazy. So, for me, Sombra, yes, she can be annoying, and EMP can be a really effective ult, but the fact of the matter is that she's just so dealable. Dealing with her, it really just kind of comes down to a skill issue. Like, there's so many heroes that can take care of her. Not just Cass, but you can combat her with Soj, with Emre, with Soldier. You can get away from her as a flyer. You can push her back with Ashe or Onron, even Junkrat. I just think Sombra just sucks, and I think that Blizzard unfortunately just kind of throwing the towel in until the rework, whenever that is. It's unfortunate. Sombra's just so bad and just such a crap character. Lately. So, anywho, I'm gonna leave that at that. Moving on to Sim. I think Sim's still pretty strong. Definitely a solid A tier hero. For me, with Sim, what it kind of comes down to is just knowing how to hold the fort down with your turrets and good teleports. TP is really good for getting teams onto sites, It's also really helpful for getting out and almost giving yourself a little extra sustain if you have that perk that like regens your shields if you're on your TP. And then obviously you can just mow people down with the beam if it comes down to it. Sim is not going to be playable in every map. You're not going to play her on a majority of payload maps because it just doesn't fit her. But she is the queen of control and flashpoint. Those are the modes where she just pops off. So if you're a good sim, I think you can do really well this season. Torb, I think Torb's like okay. I'll give him C tier. My issue with Torb is just, again, like, getting rid of turret is just not that hard. Like, there's just so much ranged poke and burst damage that can delete turret. I think Torb is definitely a little better up close, but he's still not great. If you put him up against a Reaper or even a Junkrat, he just gets destroyed. And then, Cass, Genji, there's a lot of heroes that can deal with him. I think that Torb does really well in dive metas because he's anti-dive because of turret, but at the same time, I think Torb is just, he's also just such a chunky hitbox. Like, he's not that hard to hit because of how his hitbox is, so I'm gonna give him C tier. I think in situations, he can be okay. Like against Tracer, but speaking of Tracer though, yeah, Tracer S tier. Not much to say. Tracer, just another all-star hero like Sojourn. I think Tracer is just one of the best, and she got buffed. She gets her perks faster, so that only helps her. Now, this is probably one of the biggest falls from grace, genuinely, in like maybe the history of the game. I think Vendetta is actually so weak. Vendetta is so situationally mid to like trash. It's not even funny. Like, I would rather have a Junkrat or a Freya on my team than a Vendetta. So Vendetta got hit with a massive nerf. If you don't know Vendetta, she's been dominating the game since her release. She's basically been like Thanos, just gets in, closes the gap, and deletes you with her combos. But they have nerfed her time and time and time again. She's still remained at the top, in my opinion, until now. They nerfed her HP by 25, but it also was armor they took away. So she's 250 with very little armor, so she just gets bursted. And on top of that, they nerfed her speed. They nerfed the speed of her passive stacking, the onslaught passive, so her attack speed. And even more than that, her swing, I think, goes out. There was something with her swing. Is it like you don't move as far with it? I might have to double check that, but either way, Vendetta, I never see this hero. This hero, she's still banned sometimes, probably just because of like past experiences, but I never see Vendetta anymore. And Vendetta has like one of the lowest win rates of all the heroes in the game now. It's just such a crazy downfall. So, but then again, a lot of people I think will be happy with Vendetta being bad for a bit, so I'll leave it at that. Venture, I think Venture is like serviceable. C tier. I think they're decent. I think that Venture is like probably a little better now that Vendetta's bad because you have another option. But I still think that like Genji, Tracer are just better options than Venture. Venture's like okay. They're really good for like OT and stalling, and they do thrive in dive comps. So that's probably where you would play Venture. And then finally, Widow, B tier. I think Widow is very good on your long-range sightline maps like your Circuit Royale, Junkertown, Havana, I don't know, like decent on Route 66, Midtown, but you're not going to really play her on Flashpoint, you're not going to really play her on Push, you're not going to really play her a ton on Control. King's Row, that's the other one, King's Row. But if you get those maps and you can hit your shots on Widow, you're insane. You're goated because you just delete people instantly. And that's where Widow shines, just the pick potential, but also denying sightlines. Because if you're a good Widow, or you're playing against a good Widow, you are scared to play in sightlines. You're scared to peek, you're scared to play in the open because you think you'll die. And that's where Widow goes crazy. I'll be real, I ban Widow on those maps because there comes a certain point where you're going to have a lot of players with good mechanics and they're going to pop off on Widow. So, that being said, if you get the Widow that's just playing for the vibes, completely different story. Yeah, I think Widow's pretty good. I think she's really good. Alright, finally, last but certainly not least, we have the supports. Starting off with Ana, I think Ana's fairly strong. They have her A tier. I think Ana is much better because of that buff to decreasing the cooldown of nade. It allows you to use it more offensively and not just defensively for like self-healing. So I think that that was a good healthy buff to Ana. I used to cope way too much about Ana, but I think Ana is honestly a healthy, honest hero with good skill expression because her abilities are skill shots. Sure, it can be annoying to play against a good Ana if you're a tank because you're gonna get slapped, you're gonna get anti'd, but if they do burn those cooldowns, if you know how to play it right, you can take advantage of that big time. So yeah, I think Ana's pretty strong. Not the strongest, but definitely better with that buff. Bab, real talk, I don't know what it is, but Bab does not feel that great this season. I'll give him a B tier. He's definitely still pretty playable, but I think the issue is he's just really easy to run down. Yeah, that's my problem with Bab, is he's not that hard to overwhelm once you close the gap. He has great burst healing, good damage, and a good ult, really good perks as well. Lamp is a big cooldown, but if you get up close in a Bab's face, all he can do is rocket jump, and that's not going to really help him that much. So I think that's kind of where Bab falls apart, is people have just learned to really get in close on him. Because unlike Ana, she has the threat of a sleep and a nade. All Bab has is lamp and some self-healing. I still think he's like good, but I think he's definitely like a bit lower in my opinion this season. Brig, I think, is A tier as well. I think she's actually quite strong. They gave her a really good buff with the shield. They increased the HP to 300, which that is a pretty significant shield buff, because it's not just having more health on the shield, but that means you can protect your other support more, you can bash more, which will self-heal you more, and having that online more often, because your shield is less easy to break, is a really big buff to Brig. It's a really good buff. Brig is also still going to be a great staple for Ana and Juno Brig comps, so you're always going to be able to play her really well there. And she's really good into Diva. Also pretty good into Hazard as well, to be honest. So, I think Brig is quite strong this season. I think she's definitely going to be a lot better. Iari, S tier. Not a lot to say. Iari is just a ranked menace, an absolute demon, because she has the healing for herself and her teammates, but she is a 1v1 machine. She gets crazy pick potential, she has good hit scan ranged damage, and if you can hit shots, you can just wipe the floor with the other team. And she has one of the best ultimates in the game. Like, that Captive Sun is crazy. Good damage, and that ricochet, that collateral explosion effect with the damage is crazy. It's so huge. So, yeah, I think Yari's one of the best. Jetpack Cat, real talk, Jetpack Cat is kind of situational now this season. I think Jetpack Cat still works really well on maps with like ledges. Like, she's good on Nepal, good on Eichenwald, but she doesn't have the same 1v1 lethality she used to have, so she's not like a solo Q demon. I do think that Jetpack Cat, though, still has pretty good heals and can do some good, some goofy fun combos like with Bastion and Bob. So I think Cat's definitely playable, but she's definitely like kind of calmed down. She has a niche, and she's really good in that niche, but definitely a niche though. So I'm gonna give her C tier. Juno, I think, is A tier. Did get a bit of a nerf to her mobility with her hover jets, but she's still great in my opinion because of her good healing, her damage, her utility with the ring. The biggest thing for me that I think has really helped Juno keep up is just being able to get her ult more consistently, because it used to take way too long to generate Ray, and by the time you finally got it, it just wasn't that great, but they have adjusted it. Ray, I think, is actually a really good ult again, and I think that's been a big help for Juno. Kiri's still S tier. She did get a nerf to the TP range, which will be noticeable when trying to get out, but Kiri just naturally, Kiri's just still Kiri, just really great, one of the best supports, a staple in pro play, and honestly, never can go wrong pick in ranked. Kitsune is one of the best ults in the game. Suzu's arguably the best cooldown in the game, and her healing continues to get better, and she has good DPS with her kunai. So take with that what you will. Kiri, I think, is still S tier. Alright, Lifeweaver. Lifeweaver's an interesting one. I think Lifeweaver is a really high B tier. I think he's actually really good, borderline A. What makes Lifeweaver so good is just the raw buffs. He just got tons of buffs, and the same thing kind of usually happens with Lifeweavers when he's really good is usually when his kit is inflated and his numbers are just really high. So they buffed his healing, the charged heal, the self-healing with dash. His life grip, this one we did know about, cleanses now in the base kit. That's really big. And they also buffed the Sow the Seed perk, though I still like the other one better, where you can burst people with your thorns. So yeah, Lifeweaver, really good. Really, really good this season. I think he definitely could be a sleeper pick, so we'll keep our eyes on him. Lucio, not a whole lot to say about Lucio. Just, I think he's the best support in the game. They made his dueling better with his Accelerando perk, so if he's on green, he just naturally attacks faster and still attacks really fast if he amps it up. Yeah, Lucio is a beast. Not a whole lot else to really say there. Another staple of pro play. Him and Kiri are just the pro play comp. Mercy. I think Mercy's actually fairly decent. I'm gonna give her a C tier, highest end of C. I think that she definitely took a bit of a hit with the Guardian Angel nerf. She definitely moves a little bit slower just from what I've seen. I'll admit I don't play Mercy, but I play against a lot of Mercy, so I also play with a friend a lot on Mercy, so I'd like to think I have an idea on how good she is. I think that she's situationally pretty good. I think that having Flash Heal for burst healing is massive. It's huge for her. And I do think that just being able to do more for her team, it's really good. So I think Mercy's in a decent spot, but I do think that the Guardian Angel nerf was unnecessary. I kind of wish they'd revert it and maybe just put a nerf somewhere else for compensation, maybe like the damage boost or something, but nonetheless, I think that she's decent. Mizuki, he's B tier. He's pretty good. I would have put him A if he didn't get hit with a lot of nerfs, and I know that some of the nerfs were 6v6, but there were some for 5v5. He gets his perks slower, he can be killed mid-cast of his ult. This is a good nerf. I think that's how it probably should have been. And then, obviously, the quality light buff that he got was that he can cast his retract, his recall, during the casting of other abilities now, like his chain or his ult, which I think is pretty good. The other thing also, though, is he moves slower. They actually nerfed his mobility on his shift, which, again, I don't think they needed to do. He already moved kind of slow, but they made a point of nerfing a lot of mobility this season for supports in their cooldown, so I guess that's just what they wanted to do. But yeah, I think Mizuki's still pretty good. I think he's really good with Brig. I think he's a really good anti-dive support because of his chain. Like, he shuts down Ball, he shuts down Haz. He's really good at D.Va as well. But yeah, I think that he's pretty good. And the healing, obviously, you generally want to try to play close to someone and hug them so that you can keep the healing going. But yeah, Mizuki's pretty good. Alright, real talk. I think Moira is probably the worst in slot support. I don't think that she's inherently bad. She's probably also like a C tier support next to Cat. But I do think that Moira is probably the weakest. I think that she's just kind of outpower crept with Mercy being a lot better now. I think Moira is just kind of a little bit left to hang out and dry. I think that Moira could use an HP buff, maybe back to 250, or something like that. Like, Moira's just kind of a jack of all trades, master and none support. Decent healing, decent damage, decent 1v1, decent survivability, decent ult, decent perks, but she just doesn't excel in any of that. I think there's just better options across the board, unfortunately. But don't get me wrong, I think she's playable, and she's still going to be really good in ranked, but I think the higher you climb, I've learned that, she falls off. Wuyong, I think, is A tier as well. Wuyong is just a really solid, strong support because, while it may not show in the stat sheet if you were to look at that, Wuyong actually has really good pocket heals because of his wave and his stream, especially if he gets the perk where his stream replenishes when he activates Rushing Torrent. Now, they did nerf the duration of Rushing Torrent a bit, but he still gets a decent amount of it, so he has good mobility, really good poke damage with the water balls, and he still has one of the best ults. Just being able to pop that on someone and have them go in. Yeah, Wuyong is just crazy. It's just crazy strong. Good Wuyongs just do so much damage, so that's, I think, one of the biggest things he has going for him. And finally, last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Discord Orb, Zen. Zen, I think, is a solid B tier. I think he's pretty good because of his ability to just melt tanks with Discord Orb, but I think outside of that, there's the trade-off. He's very squishy, big hitbox, no mobility, and obviously doesn't have a ton of healing. So he really lives and dies by Discord Orb. If you're picking like a comp to just F up the enemy tank, like with Ana, I think he works really well. I think that he is fairly decent in poke comps because he can play from a range and be a bit of a sniper. But if you're not able to keep the Zen alive or stay alive on Zen, you do lose a lot of value for your team. So yeah, overall, I think he's just pretty good. So that being said, that is going to be it for the tier list. I feel pretty comfortable in this order, so I'm going to leave it as B. I want to thank y'all again for watching. Feel free to let me know your thoughts down below on where you think a hero stands, if you got your own thoughts. And as always, take care, and I will see y'all next time. Cheers.